What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate. Welcome back to my channel. And today I'm back with another schedule preview and record prediction video. We're rounding out the week, and this is my second to last one. And today we're going to be doing the 2020 Mississippi State Bulldogs. Mississippi State was a fairly decent team last year. They ended up making a bowl game, but got absolutely clobbered in their bowl game. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a second. Nick Fitzgerald was their quarterback, and he has since gone. They do have one of the better running backs in all of college football, but I don't know how much he's going to be used because Mike Leach is coming in as head coach, and with him comes KJ Costello, a transfer from Stanford, and an absolute threatening air raid offense. Mississippi State's offense is probably going to be one of the better passing attacks in the SEC this year, but I'm worried that they're not going to be able to use their running back as much as they should. So we're going to go ahead and see if Mississippi State is going to be able to surprise some people in the SEC, or if Mississippi State and Mike Leach are not going to show out in year one. Here's the schedule for the Mississippi State Bulldogs. You look down there, 2019 record was 6-7, so they were 5-6 coming into the Egg Bowl, and Ole Miss looked like they were going to tie it up and go to overtime until a celebration penalty pushed Ole Miss extra point back 15 yards, and they ended up missing it. And Mississippi State got into a bowl game, and then they ended up getting clobbered by Louisville in their bowl game. It was not even close. Louisville absolutely destroyed Mississippi State. You look up there, their home games are going to be in the maroon color, and their away games are going to be in white with the maroon background. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at the Mississippi State schedule. And the first game of the season should be an easy one for Mississippi State. It's a home game against the New Mexico Lobos, and New Mexico is not a very good team, although I do think they're going to improve this year. Nowhere near the talent level that Mississippi State and Mike Leach brings to the table, and I feel like this will be a very good get-off game for KJ Costello. We can really see what he's capable of and see if he can get back into 2018 form. Then a road game against the NC State Wolfpack. Now, NC State is a team that really dropped off last year. I mean, like, they dropped off. We all thought they were going to be not as good in 2019 as they were in 2018, but they really dropped off. And I don't expect much of that to change this year. A lot of people are talking like this is going to be a fairly decent game. I think it'll be a fairly decent game for a little bit, especially since it's on the road. Mississippi State has got to go to North Carolina to play this game. But overall, I just see Mike Leach being able to use what he learned in the game against New Mexico to his advantage and go ahead and beat North Carolina State on the road. Then they get Arkansas, and Arkansas is a team that is getting another Arkansas is another team that's getting a transfer quarterback in Felipe Franks. He came over from the Florida Gators, and it was a pretty interesting move. I feel like Felipe Franks is a pretty good quarterback and could maybe let Arkansas get a win or two more than they did last year. But overall, Arkansas does not have the talent surrounding Felipe Franks that you'd like in a program. Arkansas is definitely still rebuilding, and while Felipe Franks was a good start, I only think he's going to be there for about a year. And then he's gone, so Arkansas will be right back to where they were. Felipe Franks, I don't even think is going to play the best season of his career, and I think Mississippi State's going to be able to get the win here in this one. Then another home game against the Tulane Green Wave. Tulane started off last season pretty decent and then kind of just fell off the face of the earth. They really weren't all that great overall when you look at it. I don't expect much of that to change this year. I see Mississippi State being able to easily roll. Then it's a pretty interesting game. They get a home game against the Texas A&M Aggies. The Texas A&M is a team that everyone expects to improve, but everyone's expecting, or it has expected them to improve for quite some time, and they just haven't really gotten there quite yet. Texas A&M is a team that is getting back Kellen Mond, but he is losing a lot of wide receivers and going to have to find some new weapons out there at wide receiver. But Texas A&M overall is a very interesting team to look at. Their defense should be fairly decent as well. And Mississippi State, I think, could give Texas A&M a pretty good game here. But overall, I just see and it is a home game for Mississippi State, but overall, I just see Texas A&M being far too talented. I think Jimbo Fisher's a better coach than Mike Leach. While Mike Leach does have one of the best passing offenses in the entire nation, no matter where he's at, Texas A&M just has too much raw talent, and although they are losing Justin Madubuike on the defensive side, I think we're going to be able to replace him fairly quickly and should be able to win this one here against Mississippi State. I do think it's going to be closer than the experts predict. All right, now this is their bye week. In my opinion, this is the second best place for a bye week. It's after Texas A&M and before a road game against Alabama. If anything, you'd like to have your bye week after the Alabama game because then it gets you prepared for LSU. But this bye week does come before what FPI dubs the toughest conference stretch in all of college football. And it belongs to Mississippi State, and it starts off with a road game against Alabama. Now, Alabama's going to be really good this year. Mac Jones or Bryce Young is going to end up being their quarterback, but they are returning a lot of weapons on the offensive side. Jalen Waddle's coming back, Devontae Smith coming back, Najee Harris is coming back. Like, Alabama's offense is absolutely loaded, and then their defense, while it hasn't been as good as it has been in years past, Alabama's defense should take a step up from where it has been in years past, in my opinion. And I know it's usually been pretty good, but it just hasn't been up to Alabama standards. I think this year it's back up to Alabama standards, and they should be able to roll in this one against Mississippi State. Then the toughest stretch continues with the road game against LSU. LSU is defending national champions, and while they are losing a lot, what they are returning is they are returning Jamar Chase and Derek Stingley, the best player on each side of the ball for LSU. Jamar Chase, a wide receiver, Derek Stingley, a cornerback, and arguably could be the best offensive and defensive player, respectively, in the entire nation. Now, there are some arguments up there, but definitely some of the better guys in their position. LSU is not going to be going anywhere this year, although I don't feel like they're going to be as good as they were last year. They're still going to be a really, really solid team, and I don't see Mississippi State being able to beat the Tigers here. So I see LSU being able to beat Mississippi State. Then they got a home game against Auburn, and Auburn is a team that I really like. There's still a lot of uncertainty with Jartavius Whitlow. I have had an Auburn fan tell me in my comment section that he has transferred out, and DJ Williams is going to end up being the starter, but I'm still not too sure on that. I trust your judgment, but we've seen guys come back from the transfer portal in years past, and Jartavius Whitlow has not gone anywhere yet, and there's really no telling when and where he might go. So still a lot of uncertainty, but I am going to trust your judgment and say that DJ Williams is going to be the starter here. And in that case, it makes it a little bit of a closer game, as I think Jartavius Whitlow is better than DJ Williams. However, Auburn still has a lot of great talent returning: quarterback Bo Nix, wide receiver Seth Williams. They are losing a lot on their defense, 3 of the top 50 draft picks, and including defensive tackle Derek Brown, who ended up going in the first round. But Auburn still overall is a really talented young team, and a team I really, really like this year. I feel like they're going to be able to get a signature road win here against Mississippi State, and what I think is going to be a little bit of a closer game than a lot of people think, but overall, Auburn should be able to win this one. Then a home game against the Missouri Tigers, and I think Mississippi State's, what am I predicting, 4-game losing streak finally comes to an end here, and they're going to be able to beat Missouri. Missouri is a team that is not going to be as good as they were last year. They would have made a bowl game, but because of the postseason ban, Missouri was left out of the bowl game conversation, and I think Mississippi State's going to be able to get an easy win here in this one. Then a road game against the Kentucky Wildcats. This is an interesting game because I feel like Kentucky is going to be really good. Kentucky is going to have one of the better rushing attacks. Terry Wilson is coming back, and their running back Smoke is coming back. Of course, they are losing Lynn Bowden, but overall, Kentucky's got a lot of really good rushing attack. And then Mississippi State's going to have one of the better passing attacks in the SEC, so it's going to be a great offensive battle to watch. I really do think it's going to come down to the defenses here because I think both offenses are going to score a lot of points in this game. Ultimately, I feel like Kentucky's defense is better just because when you look at past years and Mike Leach at Washington State, they scored a lot of points, but they've also allowed a lot of points to be scored, and I feel like that's just going to continue over there at Mississippi State. Then when you come back to Kentucky, their defense is already pretty solid, and they get this game at home. Bulldogs have to go on the road, and I feel like I'm going to give the slight edge here to Kentucky, but I'm not going to be surprised if Mississippi State just ends up scoring enough points to get the victory here, because that's ultimately what's going to decide this game, in my opinion. Then a home game against Alabama A&M, and this should be an absolutely easy one for the Bulldogs. They should be able to build some momentum. Before the Egg Bowl, they have to go on the road and play Ole Miss. Now, I just did Ole Miss earlier this week, and I feel like Ole Miss is also going to improve. If you remember, I had Ole Miss at 6-6, and I could see this game going either way, and I still can see this game going either way. Ole Miss is a team for me that really, really could impress a lot of people. And if you thought last year's Egg Bowl was competitive, this year's Egg Bowl is going to have much higher stakes. I think both teams are going to be on the edge of bowl eligibility, and a win here might determine whether you go to a bowl game or whether you don't. But overall, I see this one being a very tight game. You got 2 new head coaches, 2 teams bringing in 2 new systems. It's going to be a fun one to watch, and I could see this one going either way. But let me know who you think is going to win down in the comment section below. All right, so now with everything being said and considered for the Mississippi State Bulldogs, I have them going 7-5. Now their non-conference is what I would say easier than what Ole Miss has, as I had Ole Miss going 6-6. I have them going 7-5. They do have a tough stretch with Texas A&M, Alabama, LSU, and Auburn. That's one of the toughest stretches in the entire nation. But you look, their non-conference is not that bad. They have to play New Mexico. That should be easy. Tulane, that should be fairly easy. At NC State, that also should be fairly easy. And then Alabama, A&M. So they should have 4 guaranteed wins. I think the 5th loss here is going to either come to Kentucky or Ole Miss. I think they're going to split those 2 games. I think they'll get a big win on the road somewhere. But I don't think it's going to be against Alabama or LSU. They definitely have the potential to beat Kentucky. They had the potential to beat Ole Miss, and I think they're going to split those 2 games out, as I just said, and that's why I have them going 7-5. All right, so now let's look at my record range. What this is, I take this team's worst-case scenario along with their best-case scenario. It's where I expect this team to be this season. And the worst-case scenario for Mississippi State is 4-8. Now, Mississippi State, I said, I don't think has that tough of a schedule, but it's tough for the talent that Mississippi State has, and they're breaking in a new coaching staff, a new quarterback who was hurt last year, so he's a little rusty, but I think if he can get back to himself, we'll look at their best-case scenario in a minute. The best-case scenario could happen, but right now we're talking about the worst-case scenario. They do have one of the toughest stretches in all of college football, and it's going to be tougher if they lose one of those first 4 games. I think they're going to be able to win all 4 of those games. But if they lose one of the games, especially on the road to NC State, maybe Arkansas can beat them, that 4-game stretch just becomes a lot tougher. But I think they're definitely going to lose to Texas A&M, Alabama, LSU, Auburn. Maybe even Missouri can shock them, and then their bad momentum streak will continue in there to Kentucky. A lot can go wrong for Mississippi State, and it's hard when you're breaking in the new head coaching system, especially this year, just because teams are not getting to practice a lot. So I see their absolute worst-case scenario being 4-8. Now Mississippi State's absolute best-case scenario for me is 9-3. Mike Leach, we've seen he turned Washington State around pretty quickly, and they were competing for Pac-12 championships. Of course, never made it to one, but they were pretty darn close. Washington State was a team that I liked a lot when Mike Leach is there. Now he is at Mississippi State, and if he brings that air raid offense with him, especially if KJ Costello can get in the 2018 form, Mississippi State is going to be a dangerous team, and I think they have the potential to win every other game on the schedule and then win one of the games in their toughest stretch. The 9-3 is my best case for them because while they do have one of the better running backs in all of college football, with Mike Leach, you never really use your running back that much, and I just fear that Mississippi State, again, is going to continue. Washington State last year had not even 70 rushing yards per game, which was absolutely insane, but that's just what Mike Leach does. He doesn't like to use as running back, and I fear that if they don't use their running back well enough, Mississippi State could fall into that worst case scenario. But if they end up with the passing attack and they can use him as well, 9-3 is very plausible for Mississippi State, and they're going to be a dangerous team. But my current prediction for the 2020 Mississippi State Bulldogs is 7-5. All right, that's going to do it for my 2020 schedule preview and record prediction for the Mississippi State Bulldogs. And if you guys enjoyed, please leave a like. Also consider subscribing if you are brand new to the channel or just flat out enjoy my content. And if you haven't done so already, please leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Mississippi State Bulldogs. And as always, until next time, remember, play hard but tailgate harder. See y'all in the next video. Goodbye.